Hello everyone, it's Davide here and welcome back to Learning Finance. In today's video guys, I want to talk about a very high growth stock, which is Pinterest. So ticker symbol PINS, P-I-N-S, which is a stock that has been growing a lot as we can see from the graph. We see that since the pandemic, the bottom of the pandemic in March, were around $10 per share. It went up more than 8x, right? It's now standing at around $84 per share. Now, if you follow my channel, you probably know this is a stock that I bought. I have also made a video about it, best stocks for November edition. I was very bullish on the company, but I honestly didn't expect for the company to do a 40% in just how much? 4 months? 3 months? Anyway, is today Pinterest still a buy? What's the fair price of the company and what are the risks? So in today's video, I want to talk about these kind of things, and the only thing I ask you is please leave me another like. It's very important and I thank you for it. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new updates. Let's begin. Alright guys, so Pinterest. If you don't know what Pinterest is, briefly, it's a platform where you have all these kind of pictures and so sometimes they are also animated, which basically they are called pins, right? So you do an account and so you have a profile and you can post those things. It looks like at the beginning a sort of Instagram. Anyway, what's interesting about it is that all those things are clickable. And when you find something that you're interested in, let's say, well, you like gardening, so you want something to drain your garden when it's raining a lot, and you see that and well, that's interesting. So I want to know more. You just go there, click, and Pinterest basically directs you through the main website. That's basically the main idea of Pinterest. It's like a collection of advertisements made in a sort of a way where basically they are not annoying, right? Because, for example, when you go on Facebook, you have these advertisements. Most of the times they are kind of annoying, right? You don't really care about those things. While the main idea of Pinterest is that you actually go by yourself to look for those advertisements. And as we can see from the last earnings, so this is Q4 2020 plus year ending results for Pinterest, we realized that the company exploded in 2020 due to the pandemic. Monthly active users from Q4 19 to Q4 20 to basically 459 million users. 98 million are in the US, and a huge chunk of users are in international users. And revenue grew year over year 76% to reach $706 million in Q4 alone. Now, one of the most problematic stuff about Pinterest as of now is that, as you can see, the red are US active users, but when you take a look at revenues, it's clear that the biggest chunk of revenues is made from the US users, right? So this huge number, 361 million users, international users, are not that profitable, right, for the platform. And this is clear from here, the average revenue per users. We see that in the US, Q4 2020, almost $6 per users on average. While when it comes to international, well, it's way lower, right? 35 cents. And the average altogether is $1.57. But if they're able to increase this a little bit, not obviously not to reach the US, but let's say they go very near to $1, considering that basically 80% of their users are international, we could really see revenues going up exponentially, right? So that's something to keep in mind when it comes to Pinterest. Another interesting stuff about Pinterest is that the costs, they went down considerably, 71% of total revenue in Q4 2020, meaning that the business is beginning to scale. And Q4 alone brought basically net income to 29%. Okay, now this is just for Q4. The entire year is not positive yet. Anyway, that's incredible, right? It tells you how much this business can actually be profitable, as we can see as well from the 42% margins in EBITDA, okay, adjusted EBITDA, which is even better. And here we have yearly results, so we can see that the revenue went up considerably in the last 4 years from 473 million to 1 billion.7 almost, right, in 2020. And monthly active users more than doubled in 4 years. Interesting stuff is that, as I told you, net income is still down in 2020. However, the adjusted EBITDA has basically reached 18% margins. And as we have just seen previously, a 42% in Q4, right? So that's very near to Facebook stuff, 42%. And when we take a look at the guidance, they are trying to improve the pinner experience and mainly advertisement a success, right? So the advertiser, they're gonna find even easier to do stuff on Pinterest, and even more successful to put advertisements on Pinterest so that we're willing to pay more and increase volumes. Now, this is what Pinterest is trying to do, mainly trying to invest to develop the advertiser experience in terms of for him to prefer Pinterest over other platforms. And we can see that for Q1 2021, and their expectations is that in Q1 the revenue will grow in the low 70s%, which is huge year over year, right? So for Q1 20 to Q1 2021. And now the main question is, for how long can this extreme growth rate continue to exist in Pinterest growth? Analysts are expecting very high growth rates, as we can see, for the next basically 5 years. Now, I have tried to do a sort of a valuation to try to understand what is the market pricing today in Pinterest. And because they are not profitable, they don't have much history yet, I did AV to EBITDA valuation, right? Because I cannot do a discounted free cash flow without too much history. And here I put, basically this is 2020 just finished, and those are analysts' expectations. Now, analysts' expectations for 2021 and 2022 are in both years that Pinterest will continue to grow at a rate which is above 40%. Now, this is not just high growth, this is hyper growth, right? So a 47% and 41%. Then my assumption is that Pinterest will slow a bit, right? Going to 2025 with a 30% growth rate at around $8.4 billion in revenue. Now, when it comes to EBITDA margin, we have seen that just in Q4 alone, they reached 42%. In my opinion, the business of Pinterest is somewhat, in terms of costs, very similar to Facebook right now. Facebook obviously is the golden guy, right? 46% EBITDA margins, extremely efficient and profitable business. In this scenario, to try to understand what the market is pricing today, I have put started from 18%, which is what Pinterest did in 2020, and then going on, okay, so scaling the business, becoming more profitable, up to a 40% EBITDA margin in 2025. We have seen that Pinterest has already done that in Q4, right? So if they're able to continue to grow and scale, it's achievable. And that will give us an EBITDA of $3.3 billion in 2025, according to those estimates. Now, what we need is the EV to EBITDA multiple, and for Facebook is 19.5 at the moment. Facebook is obviously more mature than Pinterest. And from Seeking Alpha, we have this table, which is basically from January, and we see that the EBITDA, so Amazon, Alphabet, Alibaba, we have this kind of huge tech, e-commerce stuff, kind of comparables to Pinterest, which obviously they're not comparable 100%. mainly due to sometimes different businesses, but mainly different sizes, right? Anyway, we see that, for example, Amazon is trading at a 29.3 multiple EBITDA in 2020. Alphabet, so Google 21, Alibaba 21.9, Tencent 29.6. So these huge companies are still trading at very high multiple today. To try to understand what Pinterest valuation can be, I put 29x as a multiple. So the enterprise value at the end of 2025, it should be $97.6 billion. Now, cash minus debt, Pinterest is very strong in terms of financial because they have 669 million in cash and cash equivalents, more than 1 billion in marketable securities, and that basically is a total of current assets, 2.3 billion. And when it comes to current liabilities, total of 204 million. So they have basically a current ratio of almost 10, no, more than 10. Okay, which is incredible. Total assets 2.6 billion, total liabilities just 367 million. So because of that, when I consider a cash minus debt, I wanted to be conservative, but I have considered a 7 billion in difference, right? In 2025, we will have a total market cap in 2025 of 104.6 billion for Pinterest. When we take the discount rate 14%, to be conservative, we will have today $54.33 billion in market cap. That will give a fair price of Pinterest today of $86.32 per share. Now, we saw that Pinterest is around 84, so it should be fairly priced considering this very positive, bullish expectations, because that's the main risk about a lot of stocks in the stock market right now, is that they are priced for perfection, meaning that as expectations continue to go higher, the likelihood for those companies to actually miss the earnings, it continues to be higher and higher. So if you buy the stocks today, it doesn't mean that they are overpriced. What it means is that the expectation behind that price is incredible. As I told you, the same stuff for Square. Now, to justify this price of Pinterest, we have to say that Pinterest will continue to grow at extreme rates over the next 5 years. Now, the problem is that if just Pinterest, instead of a 37%, makes, let's say, a 28%, which is huge in 2023, and then here 25%, which it continues to be huge, and then let's say a 22, right? So that's a very high growth, but it's not hyper growth. And considering that I have reduced the growth rates, obviously this one should get lower as well, okay, a little bit. So let's say that the market is not that crazy about the valuation, and instead of a 29, it puts just a 24, right? So that's the main problem. You go there with a fair price of $59, $60 per share. So that's what I mean. The risk about buying these kind of high growth stocks now is that the prices are so high that the expectations are so high and so bullish. But you know what? If the company will continue to actually beat earnings and meet expectations, then those prices are 100% justified. So I will continue to hold my shares as of now. So that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you find it interesting. Leave me a like, leave me a comment below. Tell me, do you own Pinterest or not? Subscribe to the channel, and as always, guys, have a wonderful day.